At the beginning of the 1800s, conflict regarding wages in the state of Massachusetts was peaking. Starting in Lowell, Massachusetts, the first city of mills was created, forging the way for the textile industry in America. The owners of this mill were looking for cheap labor and turned to young, unmarried women. These women were willing to work to make a life for themselves, not having to rely on men. Eventually, the owners took advantage of the workers, extending the workday and cutting salaries. Likewise, the Massachusetts 54th Infantry also fought for wages. The 54th Massachusetts was a nearly all African-American regiment of the Union in the Civil War. White soldiers were paid $13 for their efforts, while the African-Americans were paid $10. Even the commander, Robert Goldshaw, who was white, refused to accept any payment until the wage cap was seized.
Entering the mill for the first time, I was ecstatic. I was blessed with the special opportunity to work and make my own wage. The clattering of looms filled the halls, accompanied by the rhythmic whir of spinning wheels. The air smelled of damp fibers and machinery oil, a distinct aroma that became both familiar and oppressive over time. The other girls that surrounded me, aged from young to old, big to small. There was a certain sense of camaraderie that gave both a purpose and a will to work hard. Although we were cramped inside a room, specifically 6 to a room with only 3 beds, the boarding mothers made us feel comfortable, even in an uncomfortable environment. As the time went on, excitement about working dropped. Working for about 73 hours a week, 10 to 12 hours in a day, left us physically and mentally drained. The mill owners had these terrible bells that would ring at specific times. Everyone hated the bells. One would ring at 4:30 a.m. for breakfast and another at 5:30 a.m. for breakfast to be over. A third morning bell would ring to send us to work. After about 6 ear-piercing bells, everyone would hold their heads in pain. Eventually, the owners took even more advantage of us. They started talking about cutting low wages even lower, as low as 24 cents of the $2 a week that we were promised. Outroar made its way around the factory as we worked. All we wanted was the opportunity to do something great for ourselves. After thinking back on the recent months, we knew a stand needed to be made. October 1836 wages were officially cut down. Anger spread fast, but we had a plan.
Both the 54th Massachusetts Infantry and the Lowell Mill Girls were fighting for causes greater than themselves. The 54th Massachusetts Infantry fought for the abolition of slavery as well as equal pay between white and black soldiers. The Lowell Mill Girls fought for better pay and working conditions. The causes that both sides were battling for outweighed their individual goals. They fought for the betterment of their country, a country without discrimination based on race or gender.
The men are preparing for the charge, exchanging letters with the inevitability of fatality. We weren't scared to die. I can see the approach of the fort, a small strip of beach, 50, maybe 60 yards wide, with the wicked Atlantic to the east and Vincent's Marsh to the west. We have a 250-yard march to the south face of Fort Wagner, which the scouts say is surrounded by a shallow moat set with sharpened palmetto logs and planks with spikes positioned beneath the water. This is the same water as Fort Sumter, and the first shots of the war so long ago. At first, we were just walking. But within 150 yards of the fort, Taliaferro yells, "Fire!" As he crested the flaming parapet. Shaw waved his sword, shouted, "Forward 54th!" and then pitched headlong into the sand. The weight of the war hung heavily upon us, but we knew what we were fighting for. We were fighting for something bigger than ourselves. We were fighting for generations to come and for a world of freedom that is not determined by the color of one's skin. Nearing the fort, I could see the faces of Confederate soldiers across the battlefield, their expressions reflecting desperation as they sought to preserve that hateful institution of slavery. The losses were substantial, but we pressed forward inch by inch through the relentless hail of enemy fire as we reached the fort. We knew that night we made history. We showed that a black man was capable of fighting and laying down their lives for the cause of freedom. Even though the battle was not won, our actions showed our bravery and our loyalty to our country.